Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Dååth, the Deceivers, out May 3rd on Metal Blade Records. The album has 9 tracks, 44 minutes in length, and this is the band's 5th full-length studio album. They are an American death metal band. A band that's put together a very interesting record, and when you look at the structure, I think this is an album that offers incredible playability to the songs that it has in it. It's not always the case with albums that have this sort of heaviness, but also that have this sort of technicality and bring a lot of progressive elements into the forefront. Very easy to lose track of where you are and where you're going, and the albums kind of lose themselves within themselves, making it very difficult for the listener to tell the forest from the trees. Specifically, the deeper you get into the listening experience, the albums become a lot more dense. Not the case here. It's a very rich, textured, dynamic album with a lot of life, a lot of movement, and that life and that movement is key in offering playability to the record, making the record enjoyable, making a fun listening experience, and one that you enjoy the moment that you're currently in, but you're kind of always looking forward to see what's coming around the corner. So great design that really enhances the quality of the individual songs. Now, those songs, as far as sound is concerned, offer a lot of new nuances. I was not expecting this album, for example, to be as orchestral as it is. It really uses that element a lot from beginning to end. And on a guitar side, I also felt like this was a more technical sounding album. And you can put obviously these two elements under the death metal umbrella and then create a more progressive experience. But these two elements really jumped out at me. And going back to the orchestrational side of things, it's not just here in order to infuse melody. It's here in order to create volume, in order to create atmosphere, and really in order to create songs that are massive in size. This record, for a death metal album that never really loses its heaviness and its aggression, creating these songs and making them big is not necessarily an easy process. The bigger the songs get, the more tendency they have to lose a little bit of the substance within them and therefore lose a little bit of their heaviness. This album is able to keep those two elements alive and well, allows them to coexist really well in order to make a strong album, in order to make an album that has a lot of life, that has a lot of energy, cinematic at times in terms of how these orchestral elements come through the songs, but never really losing that backdrop of heaviness that's really important for the band. Not many can do this. A band that comes to mind is Septic Flesh, and funny enough, Krim is playing drums on this record, and the drums on this record sound phenomenal. I think he plays a huge role in allowing this experience to work. You need a drummer that is familiarized himself with this style, with this approach of including symphonic elements, orchestral elements into a death metal sound, making the songs bigger, making them cinematic, but losing nothing as far as the backdrop of heaviness. So I felt like he played an incredible role on this album in terms of giving the drums the right emphasis, the right sound, the right impact in order to really help that heavier side of the band and of the record to be present across each and every single song. Now, on the technical side, the guitars have a little bit more life, they have a little bit more energy, they're a lot more dynamic on this album. All around you can see the progressive nature of the band coming through and all of the different elements. But I felt like the guitars pushed more a technical approach, not necessarily a progressive approach. Now, that technical approach lends itself to coexist with the heavier sound of the guitars, but still allowing the guitars at the same exact time to be a little bit more cutting, to be a little bit more weaving, to create different sound experiences, to create depth as far as the sound is concerned, but also to create width, making songs becoming a little bit more energetic, infusing dynamic elements to the way the tracks move, breaking the monotony of certain songs, not allowing the tracks to fall into elements that maybe would become repetitive otherwise. So the guitar sound on this album is excellent in my opinion, and it has a lot of life, and that injection of a more technical aroma into how the guitars come across definitely elevates the quality of the sound, but it also works really well with that orchestral side that this record also offers. Now, vocally, the album is very constant, it's very balanced. I think you can say it's one of the common denominators of the record, because regardless of where the songs are taking you, regardless of the uniquenesses of the tracks, the vocal performance stays very connected and very true throughout the entire album. This is definitely one of those death metal records that doesn't paint itself into a corner, that has a lot of things to offer, that offers a heavy, brutal, but still very rich and layered sound. And I think that's really important for a band like Dååth that wants to create something different, something new, but never really stray too far off of their own beaten path. This record is definitely a different album from previous records, definitely offers different nuances, but it's a growth that as a listener you can live with, because you can still see the roots of the band, you can still see where everything started. You're just seeing them perhaps taking steps a little bit further away from their home base. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Will Ill Desire. Now, this track has super heavy drums, and it has that more technical guitar sound that really helps break through some of its own heaviness, because the guitars are also heavy and they match really well with the heavier side of the drums. But the technical side of the guitars really helps pierce through that thickness, that volume, and having a super melodic chorus doesn't hurt either. So now you have a verses where it's a little bit heavier, it's a little bit darker. The verses are definitely not only heavier but also darker, and then you have this chorus that feels a little bit more brighter, that feels a little bit more melodic, that creates this nice ebb and flow between the two. And what this does, it becomes a little bit more of a dynamic song. It has a lot more fluidity, it has more movement, and it has a lot of moving pieces. This is a song with a lot of layers, a lot of texture, a lot of things for you to digest, but they're presented in a very fluid and almost simple way, which makes the song more approachable and makes the song easier to process from a listening standpoint. Next we have Unwelcome Return. I really enjoyed the mellow opening of this track, and then it moves into an almost cinematic experience. Then from that cinematic experience, the orchestral backdrop really helps to shape the melody and size of the overall song. It's a track that you see almost, it's like the Big Bang Theory. It starts almost from nothing, from an explosion, and then from that it starts to build into something bigger and bigger. With every passing minute, with every passing second, the song starts to morph into what eventually becomes, which is a great sounding track that has a lot of technical death metal elements in it. It has this heavy drum sound as well, and then it has the matching vocals that really work well with the more technical side of the track, but they also work really well with the heavier sound that it's put forward. Allows you to see how the sound moves throughout the entire track, how it coexists with different pieces, but different pieces that are really well interlinked with one another, and that heaviness of the drums mixed in with the orchestral elements that also add volume but in a different way allows this song to feel constant throughout. But once you look a little bit deeper, you can see the movement that exists within. Think about a box that has something explosive within it. This song kind of feels like everything is boxed in, but once you start listening to the track, peeling the layers and looking to see of what's inside of it, you see a song that has quite a bit of movement. It's just that one movement is created by the orchestral side of the song, the other movement is created by the heaviness of the drums and guitars together. Last but definitely not least, Into Forgotten Dirt. The orchestral sound of this track, once again, helping define the moments of the song. On this track, perhaps a little bit more, you see the orchestral elements coming in, going out, coming in, going out, coming in, going out, not staying constant. Something that you're going to see throughout the entire record, but a little bit more defined on this specific song and how the track then develops from within. Once again, the drums, super heavy. I mean, I feel like the vocals and the overall heaviness of the drum sound are two of the main ingredients as far as consistency is concerned throughout this entire record. This song also showcases that. The guitars a little bit more dynamic, weaving themselves in, and you can see that weaving of the guitar sound because you could feel it, or you can notice it a lot better when those orchestral moments disappear, when they reappear, when they disappear, when they reappear, and the guitars are kind of finding the balance when they're there and when they're not there. So a super interesting song from a musical standpoint that has a very powerful vocal delivery, which adds to the overall heaviness of the track. a track that also has a really cool melody that weaves itself, like I said, and it finds a way of interlacing between the melody that you get out of the guitars and the melody that you get out of the orchestrations. This is it, Dååth with the Deceivers, out May 3rd on Metal Blade Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.